Now boarding, the official boarding area podcast would like to welcome aboard all listeners. This nonstop service includes interviews, reviews, and insights from our talented crew of bloggers. Episode number 4 is Now Boarding.
Welcome aboard, Now Boarding episode number 4. Joining Captain Ed Pizza in the cockpit today is Angelina Aucello from Angelina Travels. Make sure those tray tables are stowed, your seats are in the upright position. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the episode.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Now Boarding, the official boarding area podcast. This is your host, Ed Pizza. This week's guest is Angelina Aucello from Angelina Travels. We're going to be going through how she likes to travel, where she likes to travel, and most importantly, how she got started down this crazy world of miles and points. Angelina's been a guest on my podcast, Miles to Go, a couple of times, and she's been a travel blogger for how long?
Wow, Ed. I started the blog back in 2011.
2011, all right, 7 years.
Yeah, 7 years.
7 years, wow. And so, for folks that don't know you and, the blog, how did you get started traveling? Like, what got you, I would say bitten by the travel bug, but what was it that got you interested in travel?
Well, Ed, actually, I had been traveling my whole life. My parents are from Europe, so my dad is very big into value destinations and getting the best bang for his buck. So we would travel to Europe frequently on very cheap fares, and then we started earning miles that way. And actually, when I was younger, I actually decided not to do a Sweet 16 party. Instead, I wanted to do a whole trip instead. So my dad and I traveled together. So it was really nice, and I got the travel bug that way. And then I started to be really interested in, seeing the world, but not spending a lot of money. So I attended the seminar. I'm sure you've been to it before. It's the Chicago seminars.
Yep.
And that was like the home run for me. I was there. I'm like, wow, there's a community of people out here that make this obsession their life. Like they truly know how to maximize every single mile and point, and it was really an inspiration for me. So that's where I really hit the ground running. But it's funny, when I started my blog, I was a single, peppy, cheerful girl, and the industry is very male dominated. So I kind of evolved my style. I used to write a lot about spontaneous travel and just like getting up and going. But now I have 2 young kids, so it's been a transition, but a nice one, because I still incorporate a lot of what I used to believe in my travel style, and now I introduced that to my children.
Yeah.
So they travel a lot with me.
Yeah, and your kids are 3 and 4 now, if I remember.
They're 3 and 4, yeah. And I traveled on 90 flights when I was pregnant. And as soon as I gave birth, I said it's time to get going again. So I packed my son up and we went to Florida, and I realized how easy it was to travel with a kid. So then nothing stopped me. Kept going.
As a family traveler, I can definitely relate that we got our kids on planes very young. We got them used to it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where people are actually afraid to travel with their kids.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of people saying, like, oh, but why would you travel with them so young? You're not going to remember anything, or it's too much work, just wait till they're older. And I said, wait, like if you keep waiting till they're older, then you're going to make excuses like they have a school commitment or a sports game. And then before you know it, your kids are 18 and out of college, and then you haven't actually traveled with the family. So I just made it a priority, and there is no obstacles. Like it's part of my life, what I've done, and I make my family come along. So
yeah, and I think the key part that I heard there that I want to emphasize for folks is that it's a part of your life. I think my kids feel like travel is normal. They don't. They're not scared by it. They're not intimidated by it. I hope that's what we're giving our kids.
Yeah, it's actually a really nice gift to give somebody, because, you can obviously going to school and learning in classrooms is very important, but also there's so much more of the world to see. And if you give your kids firsthand experience of interacting with other people and other cultures and just seeing how the world is outside of your own hometown, it's just a valuable gift that you can teach your kids a new lesson, I guess.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I remember those Chicago seminars back in 2011. I don't remember if that was the first year I attended or if that was the first year, but it's amazing how much has changed over the past 7 years. And I would guess that as a blogger, as you said, you had kids, and so your perspective on travel has changed. Do you still enjoy travel without the kids?
Oh, do I enjoy it?
Let me rephrase.
Yeah.
Do you still get to travel periodically without your kid?
Yes, I schedule it. It's necessary. For me, being a mom is very demanding, and a lot of people, they assume, like, once you have kids, you give up your entire life to devote your life to your children, which obviously is a nice thing to do, and you're always going to be a mom to your kid, but you're still a person.
Yeah.
And part of my identity is traveling. I really do enjoy alone time. I enjoy seeing new destinations by myself. I enjoy first class travel. When you travel with a family, I'm sitting in the back of the plane.
Sure.
I'm buying the cheapest ticket. We just flew from Newark to Tokyo and Singapore in economy.
I can't believe you did that. Oh my gosh.
And if I were by myself, I'd be flying Singapore Suites,
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where I wanted to have my kids have a humble start. I didn't fly first class until I was in my 20s for the first time. So it's one of those things where I said, I'll just, teach them a life lesson there that, economy is it's really normal too. But when I travel solo, I do indulge, and I try to do, Lufthansa first, Singapore Suites, anything that, aspirational redemptions, I guess.
Yeah. Do you find, are you earning most of your points through credit card spending or through travel?
Yeah, actually now, the airlines have evolved, and it's very hard to earn airline miles and status just by flying. So the credit cards are a huge part of my life. I have 16 active travel rewards credit cards. A little bit insane, but, if you're disciplined and you make this miles and points hobby your lifestyle, it just becomes, part of everyday life.
What you mentioned how you caught the bug when you were at the FTU seminars. What was it that made you want to start the blog specifically, though, as opposed to just going further into travel? What was it that attracted you to blogging? Well,
actually, what really attracted me was that I realized that there was really not many females in the blogging world.
Absolutely right.
There was mostly male business travelers, which is fine. They have a lot of information. They've traveled tons, but there was a lack in female perspective. Obviously, I'm sure you're familiar with Mommy Points, Summer.
I love Summer.
Yeah, I love Summer too, and she was my go-to female blogger. But at that time, I didn't have any children,
right.
So I didn't really, relate to the car seat and all that stuff. But I was really excited when I came back from the seminars, and I started going really deep into miles and points more than ever, and I just wanted to share my enthusiasm with primarily friends and family. And then Randy Peterson, who is the founder of Boarding Area, he found me on my own independent blog, and then he said, you'd be a great addition to Boarding Area. We would love to have a female voice, and that was how it all started.
That was, back then it was Just Another Points Traveler, right?
Yes, it was.
Yep.
Very creative name, I know.
And we transitioned to Angelina Travels now, which is a little bit easier to say.
Yeah.
The L's at the end and all that stuff, so.
Yeah, the transition, the name change for me was more, first of all, I started a family,
Yep.
I had kids, and also I was writing more about general travel as well, and not so much points and miles, but even though points and miles is very heavy in my life, but I do travel, just general lifestyle travel and family stuff. So I wanted to have a more broad audience or spectrum to cover.
Yeah, and I would also say, too, it's, more people are traveling cheaply, especially with family travel, without having to use points because of all the low-cost carriers. So it's not just about points and miles nowadays.
Yes, I know. And obviously it's a lot harder to earn the miles and points by flying. Yeah. So, I love my cheap flight deals. Now, the past 5 years, you've seen flights from New York to Europe for like $250. Like, how could you say no?
Crazy. I don't ever remember that, even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's amazing how much everything has changed in that respect.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to be right back on the Now Boarding podcast to dive in a little deeper into the areas of expertise for Angelina and, where and how she likes to travel. Stay with us. The Now Boarding podcast is brought to you in part by Norwegian Air. Norwegian is one of the fastest growing airlines in the world. The low-cost carrier is based in Europe and continues to connect cities that have never been connected before. Their most recent flights include nonstop service from Florida to Rome, Madrid, and Stockholm. They've also launched new service from Montreal to the Caribbean and from the Toronto area to Dublin. With a fleet of brand new 787 and 737 MAX airplanes, they're making the world affordable for thousands of travelers. We're back on the Now Boarding podcast with Angelina from Angelina Travels. Angelina, we've talked a little bit about it here and there, and certainly I know some of these answers because you and I have known each other for a number of years. But for folks who are just finding you, what sort of areas can they rely on you for information where you know a lot about an area? I won't go so far as to say expert because I think the term's a little bit overused. But if somebody's going to come to you for advice on something that you feel like, hey, I'm always going to be able to help them, what are some of those areas?
Well, I guess everybody here who's listening, they do enjoy the earnings and, maximizing as much as they can with miles and points. And I truly think I'm an expert at getting the most bang for my buck.
Yeah.
I like nice things, but I always make sure that I feel like I'm getting a good deal. It's more satisfying. It's very satisfying when you get a good deal and you've made a great redemption. So if somebody's looking to travel with their kids or just looking to take a nice trip and they want to know how and the fastest and most creative ways to earn those miles, they can come to me. I'll give them a very real answer, and keep it fun too. It's one of those things, like a lot of the blog can be pretty bland and just information driven, or like just copy and pasted information like that's sent out from a PR newsletter. But I like to add my own voice and my own stories in there as well.
I think one of the areas that you do really well on too are shopping portals, ways to take everyday spending and turn it into more money.
Yeah, actually, that brings me to a really funny story. A few Christmases ago, I received a really nice gift. It was Christian Louboutin shoes and a clutch. Actually, I wore that last night. But my husband bought it for me in the store, like Neiman Marcus, and I said, oh my God, I just remembered like Neiman Marcus had like a 20 point per dollar promotion on top of the Chase Freedom.
Oh, wow.
So it's like in the back of my head, I'm like, wow, am I going to be a real like idiot or really ungrateful to return the gift and rebuy it on my own terms? But obviously he understands where I'm coming from. I said, Thank you so much. I definitely appreciate this gift. However, I'm going to keep it aside. I'm going to reorder these exact pair of shoes and the exact bag, but I'm going to use the shopping portal. So long story short, after all was said and done, I ended up coming out with 55,000 United miles for that purchase. And that purchase was the same exact gift he gave me, and then I just had I had taken a flight to Asia afterwards using the miles. So
yeah, so so returning a pair of shoes and getting a trip to Asia out of buying the exact same shoes, a different way.
Of course, and 55,000 United miles is worth almost over $1,000.
Yeah.
So it was a great value, and those, during the holidays, shopping portals are lucrative. You have these awesome bonuses, and if you do, I don't buy high-end things on my own, but if someone gives me a gift, I'm not going to say no.
Sure.
But I'm just gonna, I'm gonna make sure I get the miles too.
Yeah. You mentioned your husband buying you the gift. Was he a reluctant partner in travel? Did he like traveling when you guys first met?
He likes to travel, but before I met him, he never even had a passport. Obviously he's learned the ways, but he's the type of person that will not go out of his way to maximize each purchase. So he would just go to the store and just run in and get something, and then he wouldn't go and search the best portal and do all that stuff. But he doesn't get offended if I say thank you so much, but let me just do it my way.
Yeah, we definitely have that in common because before my wife and I started dating, she'd never been north of the Mason-Dixon line, so there definitely wasn't a passport in play. And she's come along. I wouldn't even say reluctantly, because now that she gets to travel mostly in business class and first class, it's like all right, we'll do the craziness in exchange for the great travel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, we're going to finish up with some lightning questions in just a minute. We'll step aside for a quick commercial break and be right back on the Now Boarding Podcast. The Now Boarding Podcast is brought to you in part by No Jet Lag. Don't let jet lag get you down. There are flight crews, sports teams, and business executives all around the world that sing the praises of No Jet Lag. No Jet Lag is the leader in jet lag management for the last 25 years. Don't let jet lag spoil your next trip. Visit nojetlag.com to get yours today. And we're back to wrap up this week's episode of the Now Boarding Podcast. We're going to zip through some lightning questions with Angelina, and let's get right into it. Coolest destination you've ever visited?
Wow. The beauty of the world is that there are so many great places to see, so it's really hard to pinpoint one. But I will tell you my favorite destinations to go to are warm weather ones. Mm-hmm. And bonus points if it's a very cheap value destination where you can get a lot of bang for your buck. Southeast Asia in the winter is my go-to spot. In the heart of February in New York, it's brutal.
Oh, yeah.
So I like to hop on a flight, go to Vietnam, go to the Philippines, go to Thailand, and then you can live like a king there and enjoy and enjoy the sunshine most of all. And it's a nice place to get away.
Yeah, they are cheap flights. They're long flights.
Yeah.
But we did talk about that on my Miles to Go podcast. We talked about your recent trip, so we'll make sure we link to that in the show notes so if people want to see that, they can. Do you find yourself, when you talk about warm weather destinations, are you more likely to head to Asia or to, say, South Florida?
Well, both. I mean, if I know a huge snowstorm is on the way, I booked the first flight out, and it's 2 hours, and I'm lying on the beach, and I'm happy. But I don't know about you, but in the wintertime for me, it's very hard in the Northeast because I get so affected by the weather. If it's gloomy, if it's cold, I don't want to do anything. It's unmotivating. So when I get myself out of that, it changes my whole mood, and it affects my parenting style. And
Well, and you can still take advantage of it because your kids aren't in school full time.
Yeah,
it gets tougher when they're in school.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, so I guess I'll be going to Florida a lot when they start school.
Well, you get opportunistic. You find gaps. So, like, for example, our school's always off for elections, and so we'll squeeze away. That's a 4-day weekend, and 4 days is enough time to get to the Caribbean and back, and still have 2 solid days down.
Yeah, that's actually a great trip. 4 nights is quick hop, and you're used to traveling I'm sure lightly with your family, and you can just get out and
They've gotten better at it. From a packing standpoint, I don't know, are you a light packer or a heavy packer?
Very light packer.
Yeah.
We just did the Southeast Asia trip for 3 weeks, and we took 2 carry-ons for 4 people.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
And because when you have kids in tow and you don't want to have stuff. Like, I don't bring like a pack and play. I don't bring car seats. I don't bring any of that. I just bring what I need, like clothes wise, and we find a place to do laundry if we can.
Yeah. Do you pack a hairdryer?
No, who does?
All right, so my wife and I had this fight for the first few years, and we finally settled it. And it's funny because I actually, a good friend of mine did an article in the Wall Street Journal about it, and my wife definitely got me back for this. It was, I made her the promise. I said, because she used to pack, all of that stuff. And I said, look, honey, like, we need to be able to carry on. So here's the deal. You don't pack a hairdryer. If we ever get to a hotel and the hairdryer's not powerful enough, because that was our concern.
You'll
with
buy
the hair,
one.
I'll buy one.
Yeah.
And I haven't had to buy one yet.
Oh, yeah, that's good. The worst hairdryers are the ones that are connected to the wall.
Yes.
Like the YMCA version, and you have to like squeeze both ends and like.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
I don't envy people with long hair. All right, so as you said earlier, you've got 16 credit cards in your wallet. I'm not talking about the one that you'd recommend to most people. Mm-hmm. What's your favorite credit card? What's your go-to card for you?
Wow, okay, so there's different purchases that people make every day.
But you're on a deserted island.
Oh,
you
yeah,
can only take one.
Oh, no, okay. All right, it'll have to be an Ultimate Rewards earning card.
Okay.
Only because I like flexibility. I don't like being tied to just one airline or hotel program. So Ultimate Rewards gives you the option to transfer your points as needed. And, yeah, I mean, you can top off an award.
Yep.
Right now, Ed, I have a lot of points. I feel like I have too much. Like, I'm earning so much just on regular spend, and
right.
But I'm not really redeeming, so I'm getting kind of nervous collecting points in all these programs. So I like to focus on like one uniform point system right now, which would be Ultimate Rewards or even membership rewards. But I just don't want to have to keep track of more points, expiration dates, and you know how that works.
Oh, I certainly do. And for folks who are not credit card experts, I'd say 3 different categories here: Chase Sapphire Preferred, Chase Sapphire Reserve, and then the Chase Ink, which is the business credit card version of that, are all cards that earn Ultimate Rewards points. And I'd agree, too. That's probably my go-to in my wallet. So you live in the Northeast.
Yes.
Favorite airline?
Well, I live in New Jersey, which means I'm limited to only a few airlines, and one of them is United. Back in the day, United was great. I loved Continental,
sure.
And United had a good program when they first merged, and then unfortunately when they went revenue-based, I went from 1K status, which is the top tier status, to member. So that was like a huge drop. It was like there was no soft landing for me. But now I have silver status because I linked my Marriott Platinum, with the reciprocal benefit that way. I like United only because it's most convenient for me. Now with kids, I don't really take crazy routings anymore. I just have to get somewhere and come back in the easiest way possible. And, I'll choose a nonstop from my home airport rather than hopping around or even going to JFK, which is another nightmare.
Yeah, no, for you that would be a nightmare for where you live, and I think you're probably the same as me. Like I'm a United guy because I live right near Washington Dulles. But if I lived, say, near Philly, I'd probably be an American person because that would get me home the quickest to my kids when I needed to get back from a trip.
Yeah, but my favorite airline, if I had to choose, would be JetBlue.
I like their culture.
I like JetBlue because they have everything included. When you travel with your family, like my kids like to watch TV, and obviously that's a great way to get them through the flight without any fuss. So they get the free DirecTV, the free Wi-Fi for me, free snacks. It's just like a very laid-back airline. I feel like they're always happy, and I wish they just didn't fly so much out of JFK. Otherwise.
They used to have a Dulles presence, and I now have almost no flights. They used to have 15 or so destinations, and now they're down to just one or two, which is a bummer for me.
Yeah.
Because I do like them as an airline, but I can only get to, I think, Orlando and JFK right now.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's very limited.
Yeah. But still love their culture, love the planes, wish they had the Dulles Long Beach flight still.
But their rewards program is great.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where usually variable pricing is not so good, but each point is worth a fixed value of 1.4 cents, I believe that's the case. But I found great flights for like under 3,000 points during fare sales, and you can always call them and rebook your flight if a cheaper fare comes up. So they'll refund you the difference in points, and they're really good like that.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, so we know JetBlue is the favorite airline, United the airline of convenience. Favorite hotel chain? I think I know the answer to that.
You know the answer. I love Hyatt.
Yeah.
I love Hyatt. The reason why I love Hyatt is because they have such great, valuable points, easy to get points. Like, you can get points from Chase Ultimate Rewards. They have great promotions. And the only thing about Hyatt, though, is the footprint is a little bit limited.
Sure.
But it's okay because sometimes if a new Hyatt property pops up, it'll inspire me to go check out a destination just because the new hotel is there. When you stay at a Hyatt, if you have top-tier global status, you're getting, like, wonderful breakfast. It's a very comfortable stay. Suite upgrades are nice. The lounge saves some money, when you're with your family. I was just in the Bahamas at the Grand Hyatt.
Bahama, right?
Yes, and I went over Thanksgiving, and that resort has a redemption of 20,000 points per night, but I got a really cheap paid rate and used the City Prestige, fourth night free. So the stay was very cheap because I had the lounge access, which is tremendous. There was spreads of food, like that. It was totally fine for dinner. Like we had like sushi rolls and hot, turkey meatballs, whatever. You can make yourself a meal and you save so much money. So that's what I like about Hyatt because the lounges are nice and the nice properties and the breakfast is great and the points are still valuable.
Yeah, I agree, and it's certainly my favorite too. But I think even with the small footprint, I think it only hurts you in some of the larger cities where maybe they don't have quite as many hotels. They've started to pick up a bunch of cities that they didn't used to have presence in.
Yeah.
So it's not as bad as it used to be. And quite frankly, in a place like the Bahamas, I don't really need more. Marriott has, I think, 4 or 5 properties in that general region. I don't need 4 or 5. I need 1.
Right.
And thankfully, that property that they have there has both the ability to be a resort component and ability to bring my kids. So if I want to do a trip with just Michelle and I can do that. But if you want to bring your kids, that's fine too.
Yeah, and the one in the Bahamas is actually the largest Hyatt in the portfolio. Yeah, 1,800 rooms.
Okay, I was thinking it was still the Orlando property that they bought by.
Correct me if I'm pretty sure.
1,800 bigger because I think it's 1,400.
Okay, yeah, 1,800, and it's really nice, massive. Yeah. And it actually compared to the Atlantis property, which is Marriott.
Yep.
It makes the Atlantis look like a circus, and and the Baha Mar Hyatt looks like the Wynn. So if any families kind of want to, decide between the two.
Yeah, I'm definitely more of a Wynn versus a circus.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Yeah.
All right, last question as we wrap up. One place that you still haven't visited that you definitely want to get to. Okay,
well, I did mention I do like warm weather, but I do want to see all of the world, and I have one more continent left. So I would like to get to Antarctica sometime soon, but I know it's a big commitment because it's very expensive to do an expedition. And also I know friends who've taken the boat from Ushuaia, and they had to, it was like 21 day start to finish. But when you have 2 kids at home, it's kind of hard to be totally disconnected without Wi-Fi and rough waters, and and I'll get there, but it's on my list.
Well, you can tell the folks on the Boarding Area podcast are dedicated travelers. That's the second person that we've had say that Antarctica was the place that's still on the list they want to visit. That means that you're very well traveled. If that's really what's left, that means that you've definitely covered the world, which I know, having known Angelina for a number of years, she's definitely covered a lot of the world. Yeah, we have some exciting adventures together, actually. Remember? Djibouti. Who would have thought I'd end up in Djibouti? Well, thanks to Norwegian and Unistep, we did. And it was a really fun trip. I couldn't imagine so many pieces of that. But being able to say when we got started on this adventure that we were going to end up in Djibouti bringing aid to to kids that needed fresh water, and being able to be a part of that adventure was just awesome.
Yeah, there were so many fun memories there.
Maybe not so much the guns.
Yeah, we can leave that part out, but for next time.
Let's make sure we don't remind Michelle of that. She doesn't really want me to go again with the, preferred not to have the guns. All right, so as we wrap up here, tell folks where they can find you on a daily basis.
I would love for you guys to check out my blog on boarding area. My blog is Angelina Travels. You can go to angelinatravels.com, and it'll take you right to my boarding area blog. I'm also on Instagram. I post some funny stories once in a while. My Instagram handle is at Angelina Travels, and you can find me on Twitter at Angelina Aucello, which is my first and last name.
Don't forget to ask her about Instagram and her jeans.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that.
Vegas pool party.
All right, Angelina, thanks so much for being on. We'll see you next week on the Now Boarding podcast.